All right. Good morning, Badger Region. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn as we talk about all things sportsmanship. I'm Brian Sharkey, the Program and Communications Director with Badger Region, and joining me today are Sarah Voigt and Mark Horbinski. Welcome, everyone. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for folks who might not know you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Voigt. I'm Director of Officials and Youth Development here at Badger Region Volleyball. Super excited to connect with all our friends in the region today.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mark, go ahead and introduce yourself. This is, I think, your second or third time joining us on a Lunch and Learn. But for those who are watching, maybe who are new to this, please share.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Mark Horbinski. I represent an organization called 180 with a mission to lead a return to sportsmanship through awareness, education, and inspiration. And this is my third year of partnership with Badger Region and my third Lunch and Learn. Thrilled to be part of the team once again and excited to get out to visit a lot of clubs and meet the kids and coaches and club directors and parents.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark, for joining us. And as we dive into the world of sportsmanship today, we're going to be having some help behind the scenes from Scott Spies. If there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the Facebook comments. In addition to that, if you're watching this outside of the 11:30 to 12:30 hour on October 17th, go ahead and still continue to put things in the comments. We will follow up with anybody and everyone who has questions. And we'll make sure that we get back to you if there's anything. Mark is in his third year of partnering with us, and Mark does some amazing presentations at clubs, and he's done some at our events that focus on sportsmanship. So, Mark, in the grand scheme of things, why is sportsmanship important? You could probably go down about 14 different avenues with this.
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? I guess in a nutshell, I think sportsmanship is important for really four primary reasons. Three of them are research-based. Research shows that 70% of kids are leaving organized sports by the time they're 13 years old. And when kind of pressed on what that means, they say it's not enjoyable. And when they're pressed further on what that means, it's not that they don't enjoy playing the sport. It's some of the toxicity and relationship issues and expectations that someone feel that they can't meet. And as a result, they're choosing to walk away. Now, I know that volleyball is a sport that continues to grow and thrive, but that's not necessarily the case in all sports. And if there are student athletes that are leaving volleyball, just imagine how many more you might have if even if half of that number is correct for your sport.
Would you say that in the volleyball world, people come to find that our sportsmanship sometimes is a little bit better than other sports? Are we doing it right on the volleyball side compared to some other sports?
I think that your sport is exciting and dynamic, and the team dynamic and the enthusiasm that is part of the volleyball experience is one of the things that's real attractive to the players of the sport. I think that when things go wrong on a volleyball court, it seems like teams are able to get past that pretty quickly and kind of refocus. So I think a lot of times the concerns that might involve volleyball might be things more that might happen in the stands or outside of, the lines of the court. So I think that's a concern.
Definitely. Sarah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark. Finish your thoughts there.
I was just going to say, and then the other couple of reasons are coaches are leaving the profession earlier. Yeah. There's a shortage of officials. Research ferrets out that relationships are a big part of all three of those areas. And then, I think the biggest reason that sportsmanship is important, it's the right thing to do. I mean, if we're using sports as a venue to teach life skills and the like, I think it's important that we learn the proper way to interact with people positively.
I appreciate that too, Mark, that it's the right thing to do. And as a coach and an official, Sarah and I can speak to a lot of that. You just want them to do what is right. Sarah, what are you seeing at a lot of the events that you work, either as a tournament director or as an official, when it comes to sportsmanship?
Boy, it can go both ways, actually. There's some events as a tournament director. There's some tournaments that I work or help staff or whatever that are great. Everyone's cheering. It's so great to see people cheering. I actually when I walk around, I veer toward those courts with those excited parents, excited kids. That's what we want to see. However, I also sometimes, as an officials assigner or just working a tournament, I do sometimes get drawn to where I kind of hear, oh, I hear something's going on. And I go and there it is. It's either some pretty aggressive behavior toward the official, coaches toward each other, coaches toward their players. So unfortunately, there's two different, obviously, dynamics. I think the better is getting better, if that makes sense.
Ooh, yes. But at the same time, the worst might be getting worse.
It is. And that's
right.
I'm hoping with Mark's help, right? We love Mark and he opens, I think, a lot of our minds to different ways of handling things and taking some of that emotion, which I think is the deep-rooted issue or start to some of these reactions, which mostly aren't personal, but unfortunately can be taken that way.
I think you're right. The emotional reaction that we have in the moment does kind of, need to be controlled in some ways, and just how we respond to various situations, just as parents, as coaches, as officials are, those, if we can all take emotion out of it, we might, be able to all behave a little bit better.
Boy, right?
Right? Mark, when it comes to media, I mean, NFL players, NBA players, sometimes those are the worst sportsmanship. Do you feel like those rub off on our athletes and spectators at youth sporting events?
Absolutely. I think that, the media coverage of the outrageous and the outlandish has happened. It happens often, and it's happened for a long time. Those are the clips that people see, whether they're on social media or whether they're on, television. And so I think that we're seeing a lot more kids emulating some of those behaviors, those negative behaviors that they're seeing on TV and such, and that are being reinforced by seeing them over and over and over again in all the different venues. I think that social media in general has created a whole new level of complexity for sportsmanship and what we do. You hit it on the head. Sports are very emotional, and sometimes when we get emotional, we act before we think. And in the world of social media, you really can't take anything back. It becomes a permanent reminder of a temporary emotion in many cases, right? I mean, it's up there, and someone screenshots it or someone shares it. If you use all caps instead of, if you're not using the proper grammar or punctuation, your message could be misinterpreted. So social media and the immediacy of it has created some real challenges for us.
Well, Mark, just to branch off that a little, Sharky, if I could, sometimes I'm on Instagram and I'm looking at these student section Instagram pages, and even reffing or coaching at matches. When do you draw that line? That's that interesting part. Like some of the Instagram student section posts, I look at them, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, was that? But then, I come from a different generation. Are things changing? Are things becoming more acceptable in that area?
I think that organizations and school districts need to really be careful about how their names are used, because a lot of the sites where we see some of the most extreme negative posts are they're not sanctioned by the organizations, or they're not sanctioned by the school districts, but the name of the organization or the school district might be attached, and people just automatically connect that they're two and the same, and they're not. So I think it's very important for everybody that is involved in athletics as an organization or a district, that they pay very careful attention to what sites are out there and what those naming conventions are, and making sure that they take precautions to make sure that if those negative sites might be construed as attached to an organization or school, that the school make sure that the appropriate language is put on there. This is not sanctioned by such and such school district or such and such organization. So yeah, that's a whole new issue that's coming up.
Oh my goodness!
It almost would become a full-time job to have to police all of that. Yeah. Not only the athletes posting negative things about other schools or clubs, but we've seen it even where coaches will go on their social medias and tweet or post about another coach. We've seen officials post things about, look what happened at my match today. And it just kind of goes, where did the common sense go? Mark, is common sense a dinosaur now?
Well, I certainly hope not. Again, I think the immediacy of being able to share your emotions is kind of overtaken common sense at times. We think that we need to react or respond to something in real time. In the old days, if you were upset with somebody, you had to call them or you had to find them, seek them out.
At the bike racks after school.
Right.
Yeah, you had to send a letter, whatever it was, and so sometimes cooler heads prevail just because it took so long to communicate your displeasure. Now that's not the case, and so I think we just need to exercise more caution and understand that we need to put some safeguards into play before we react or respond to something.
Because common sense might be kind of hard in those group think sort of moments that I tell my boys all the time. We need to really think about when we're in a group, what are we do? What are we saying? What are we doing? Because for whatever reason, the stupid idea comes out first before the cautionary, comments and actions that follow. But have the values of coaches, athletes, officials, have those changed, or are those just getting kind of overwhelmed by the bad seeds?
Well, I think that we have a lot of coaches, if we're talking specifically about coaching now, I think we have a lot of coaches that are coaching with their hearts in the right place, but they may or may not be fully qualified for some of the roles that they're asked to fill. If you think about your youth programs, a lot of times the people that step up and coach youth sports might be that well-to-do parent that's stepping up because nobody else is. Right. And we assume that because they're great parents, that they know how to be great coaches, so we don't invest time in providing training opportunities or talking through some of the issues that are unique to coaching a group of kids in a competitive situation. So I think that as a result, sometimes we have people that mean well that might not be equipped with all the tools to do the things the way that we'd like to see them done. And not all. There are a lot of amazing volunteers out there. There are a lot of amazing people that invest that extra time. So I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying sometimes we put people in a difficult situation and make success a little bit harder.
Derek, did you want to add something there? I'm sorry, we kind of spoke over each other.
Gosh, no, I was going back to obviously not all rivalry is unhealthy. There is always that good level of healthy banter back and forth. I think that's just kind of natural, right? But obviously sometimes, especially with social media, that can be taken much higher, correct?
Yeah, I think that a couple of the, when I do presentations at schools or workshops, a couple of the points I like to leave the groups with that I speak to is winning should always be a target when you compete. It's one of the ways that you honor the sport and the commitment and the time and the work that you're putting in. So you should always go out and try and compete at your highest level and try to win. But that shouldn't be the only target or measure of success, right? I mean, we're not using athletics, youth athletics, and high school athletics to churn out the next generation of Olympic star or professional athlete. If they get to that level, that's amazing. And if that's within their work ethic and their talent level and ability, fantastic. But most people aren't even in it for those reasons, let alone have the ability to achieve at that high level. And so what are the other pieces that we want kids to gain? We want them to, to become good team players. We want them to learn how to collaborate. We want them to learn how to be resilient, right? We want them to learn how to be humble in victory and gracious in defeat, because you're going to have victories and defeats all throughout your life. So I think that some of the conversation, Brian and Sarah, that really is important at a program level, a club level, is what do we want the kids to gain from this experience? In addition to trying to win, what else do we want them to get? And then how often do we sit down as a club or an organization and talk about what does that mean? What's our common language you're going to use? What does it look like in action? How do we bring that down to kids? And how do we revisit it on a regular basis? We don't teach someone how to serve one time and then never serve again, right? Until the match. We don't do that. But a lot of times with character and sportsmanship, we outline what we expect of them at the beginning of the year, and the only time we revisit it is when there's a problem, right? And we're not reinforcing it and having it become part of the fabric of the work that we do on a daily basis, because we're concerned it's going to take away from our coaching time and we have too much skill and drill stuff. And I get that, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. There are certainly ways that you can incorporate both.
No, I love that. I think we all need to remember that it's like a muscle. You got to use it and practice and to make it stronger and just develop those positive habits. Same thing we tell our athletes and coaches, like you need to learn the rules and officiate in a practice and learn how to line judge and apply it. Otherwise, when it comes to that time that you have to be on the line as a line judge, and you did it one time at a training session in November and it's the end of April, well, you probably haven't practiced that. So very true, very true. So what we're going to do here, Mark and viewers, is Sarah and I are going to kind of present some unique situations. A lot of what Mark does, in the classroom are so awesome and stuff, but they're not necessarily, in the real world. And we're going to try to bring to light some of the issues Sarah and I run into as officials, as coaches, what we see athlete to athlete do.